Hi folks, it's Andrew here from Home Theatre Engineering again, and today we're talking about mounting acoustic panels. Okay, so we, as you probably know, manufacture and supply our own acoustic panels, and I've got some hanging on the wall behind me, but today is really more about how to actually mount and secure these panels to the wall and some of the advantages of doing it this way. So I'm going to take this one off the wall. This is one of our listening rooms, by the way. Okay, so for a while we used to use off-the-shelf acoustic treatment, and we found it was expensive, and a lot of it was either not effective or wasn't actually designed for listening rooms and music, and we needed something that provided good response or good acoustic treatment over a fairly decent range of the frequency or frequency range. And so we found that things like the eggshell foam was very, very limited. It was more like a notch filter. And a lot of the stuff that you can buy is actually architectural stuff that's designed to cut out and reduce voice load in venues. And that's the last thing you really want to do in a room if you are just using it to try and reduce reverberation, because you actually just take a notch out of the spectrum and you don't treat the problem in the room. And the key word here, folks, is treatment. It's a bit hard going to the doctors and asking for medication if he doesn't know what the problem is. One of the issues with room acoustics is a lot of people don't know what the problem is that they're treating in the first place. So you see a lot of videos of people who have an empty shell of a room, they throw up a whole heap of thin acoustic foam, they walk back in, clap their hands and go, "That's so much better, you can really hear the difference." You can hear a difference. The question is it a good difference? Just because it sounds different doesn't mean it's great for music or great for listening. There are a few things that we're trying to treat in a room, and one of them may be reverberation time, one of them may be to do with perhaps bass modes, and that's a different subject altogether. We might be dealing with off-axis response or reflections. There's a whole heap of stuff going on in a room, and what we want to know is what we're treating first. So we ended up designing our own panels. You can build them yourself, guys. It's no great secret. It's just we've got someone who builds them exceptionally well for long life and a good range of colours, and we've carefully selected the product that goes into here. So this is a high density fibre that's in here. It has a very broad spectrum in terms of absorption, and also we've deliberately imposed a 35mm air gap here, so that extends the lower range of the absorption on these panels. So having an air gap actually helps, and that's been put in here very deliberately. The other thing is we also create these specially, so if you have certain speakers and you want to hide them in the panels, they can be put in between the cross members, and they're put at measured distances, and we put some brackets in, and then the speakers are hidden. And of course the fabric on the front of the panel is acoustically transparent, and we've done that on an awful lot of our projects, which you may have seen before. So today the question is, how do you hang one of these panels? So the way they're secured to the wall, of course, gone and dropped the bracket, is with this split batten. So if you can see there, I'll just see if I can get that on the wood section. You can see that basically it's an angled piece of wood, and the angle goes against the wall, so the slope, so it gives you an edge up here. All right, the slope is hidden at the back, and that's the bit that goes against the wall. All right, so I'm going to put this aside for a second. So what you want to do is work out your measurements. Now we normally sit our acoustic panels about 250mm off the ground. That's just about 10 inches in imperial. And then you have the height of the panel. Now our panels are 1800, which is roughly 6 feet. So we know that the top of the panel is going to have to be at, in our case, 2050mm off the ground. You'll have to do your own conversions, folks, because we work in the metric system here. So it's 2050 to the top of the panel. The next thing we need to know, and most of our panels are pretty consistent, but by putting the bracket up in the panel where it sits so that it's completely flush and measuring that distance there, so we just hold that there and we just double check just in case there's been any change. Normally it's fairly consistent, so we're looking at 130mm. So 130mm from the very top of the panel where it's going to sit to the bottom of this bracket. So we know that we're at 2050, we take 130 off, and that places us at, oh heavens above, 2050, so that's 1920. So at 1920 above the floor level, we would need to make a mark. So we'd make a mark on the wall, and then we take our batten, we place the batten on that mark, and what I normally do is I take a spirit level, place it on top of the batten so that I can see the mark underneath. Alright, so I've now got the mark there, I get the batten dead level, and then normally what I do is I actually mark where the drill holes are on the batten already, and we've got this centralized at the position for the acoustic panel. So this is now secured on the wall. How do you secure it to the wall? Well, it depends what kind of wall you've got, of course. In Western Australia here we have obviously clay brick. We call it gyprock, but it's drywall to a lot of you. And there's all sorts of other possibilities. So you're going to have to approve or choose the appropriate anchors that you're going to use. In Australia we use, I use anyway, the green wall or rawl plugs, and about a 6 or 6.5mm drill into brickwork and a 75mm screw, and secure it that way. Or there are plenty of other either expanding drywall anchors or various things. Ideally you want something where each anchor is rated for at least 10 kilos, and you want to make sure you've got a nice positive lock on this. You don't want it falling off the wall. Now you don't necessarily have to have countersunk screws on this. It looks nice if you do, but it actually doesn't matter because this bit has quite a gap behind it. Now, as you can see, we've already got one up there on the wall. That's well secured. That's been installed using drywall anchors, and it's ready to hang on, and it's very, very simple. All we do is take the panel, locate the center of the panel as best we can, place it up and hang it down onto the bracket, and that's it. And providing we have secured your bracket properly, then she's there for good. Now the beauty of it is the bracket is not the full width of the panel, so the panels can just be slid left and right and tapped along until they're exactly in location, and you can move them backwards and forwards to make sure that if they're a mirror point that they're actually capturing the right location. Obviously check that you've put your bracket on horizontally and make sure that your panel is therefore sitting vertically, and you're good. The fabric wraps around the panel so it won't rattle and bang on the wall, and we also do some various other little tricks with these. We do have rebates for lighting, for LED lighting at the back, and as I said, we've got multiple designs for speakers that are installed in the panels. These things have proved really popular. We're shipping them all over Australia now. They are vastly more effective than a lot of the other products on the market, and they're certainly cost competitive, and they're very easy to hang. The other thing we have done with people before is if you're in a rental and you can't mount on the wall, then we have a version that has legs on it, and then you can use those removable adhesive stickers at the top just to secure them back, and that way when you leave the premises you just release them and take the panels with you. Likewise with these ones, the beauty of it is if you've finished in that premises, if you're moving house, you can just unhook your panels and take them with you, and you've only got 2 small holes to patch up. One of the problems with a lot of the product is they actually expect you to glue it to the wall, and that's problematic as well. All well and good, but when you go to get it off, you now have a layer of glue all over your walls, and that can be an absolute nightmare to restore your property back to an original condition, or have to paint it or treat the surface or whatever you have to do. So we have designed the panels to be friendly to the room that you're putting them in, easy to clean up after, easy to move and relocate, acoustically effective. But look folks, please don't just slap acoustic treatment in a room, because the word treatment, as I said earlier, is vital. You need to know why you're doing it and how much of it. Too much will kill your room, not enough in your room might be too reverberant. Put it in the wrong place or use it for the wrong purpose, then you can be really making a mess. And look, there's lots of good advice out there, but seriously, to do a room properly actually doesn't have to be that ridiculous. And in another video we'll address room modes and bass traps, because that's a whole other kettle of fish. So look, I hope this has been interesting or helpful, and you know, if you are interested in our acoustic panels, please get in touch. We are shipping them all over Australia, and I think we've even sent some overseas. So yeah, it's a great way to improve the room. And remember, the room is the boss. It doesn't matter how good your equipment is, it doesn't matter how much money you've spent. If you haven't set your room up properly, then, you know, spending money on fancy equipment and cables and all sorts of high-end things like power filters and special speaker cables and power supply cables is a complete waste of money, because your room will dictate how your system will sound. Once you've got your room right, then you can start tweaking all the fine stuff and you'll hear those improvements. But there's no point trying to battle against a room and spending money to do that when your room is incorrect. Get the room right first. The room's in control, and if we don't respect that, we've got no chance of getting great sound. Okay, so thanks again for listening. I really enjoyed having your company. As always, please subscribe, ring the bell so that you get notifications, and we love your comments. So we do try to reply to them as often as possible, and you know, we enjoy having you part of the home theatre engineering family. So thanks again.